My sister collapsed from her chronic pain, right as I announced my promotion, but then I handed her the video I'd taken 20 minutes earlier and watched federal agents handcuff her instead of rushing her to the hospital. Before I tell you exactly how everything unfolded, do me a small favor. Take a second to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps my story reach more people who need to hear it. And trust me, this one is worth staying for. I'm a data analyst. I find patterns and numbers that other people miss. Insurance companies pay me 6 figures a year to catch the liars, the cheaters, the people who think they're clever enough to game the system. I map their behaviors, track their timing, identify their mistakes. It's what I do for a living. And for 5 years, I watched my little sister Emma perfect a pattern of her own. A pattern that was covering up $47,000 in prescription drug fraud. Using my insurance, my name, my entire life as collateral. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all started, because you need to understand just how long I've been planning what happened at that family dinner. You need to see the moment I realized my baby sister wasn't sick at all. She was a criminal, and she was willing to destroy me to keep her scheme running. It began 3 years ago with a car accident that was barely even an accident. Emma was driving home from yoga class when someone tapped her bumper at a red light. 5 miles per hour, maybe less. The other driver's insurance covered everything. There wasn't even a dent in Emma's car. But Emma went to the emergency room anyway, complaining of neck pain and back spasms. The doctor, a kind older man who probably had daughters of his own, prescribed her Percocet. 2 weeks' worth. Standard protocol for soft tissue injuries. I remember visiting her that first week. She was lying on the couch with heating pads and ice packs arranged around her like some kind of pain management fortress. Mom was hovering, bringing her smoothies and adjusting pillows. Dad had already canceled his golf weekend to stay home and help. And me? I was told I needed to be more understanding, more patient, more sympathetic to what my poor sister was going through. But here's what bothered me from the very beginning. When Emma thought no one was watching, when she was scrolling through her phone or reaching for the remote control, she moved normally. Fluid. Easy. No wincing. No careful movements. No signs of the debilitating pain she claimed was ruining her life. And when she read that prescription bottle for the first time, when she saw the words oxycodone printed on the label, I saw something cross her face. Something I'd never seen before. It wasn't relief. It wasn't gratitude. It was opportunity. The 2-week prescription somehow lasted 6 months. Emma kept going back to that same doctor, describing pain that migrated around her body like it had a mind of its own. Some days it was her lower back. Other days her neck. Sometimes her right shoulder, sometimes her hip. The doctor, bless his trusting heart, kept writing prescriptions. He probably thought he was helping a young woman recover from trauma. He had no idea what he was actually doing. My parents started treating Emma like she was made of glass. They rearranged their entire lives around her pain schedule. Mom quit her book club because the meetings conflicted with Emma's doctor appointments. Dad turned down a promotion that would have required occasional travel. Family dinners were planned around Emma's good days and bad days. And I became invisible. Again. See, this was an entirely new territory for our family. Emma was born 2 months premature. She came out blue, not breathing, and spent the first 3 years of her life in and out of hospitals. My parents lived in constant fear that they were going to lose her. I was 5 years old, and I learned very quickly that Emma's needs came first. Always. My soccer games got canceled if Emma had a doctor's appointment. My birthday parties were postponed if Emma was having a bad day. I understood it then. She was genuinely sick, genuinely fragile, genuinely fighting for her life. But by the time Emma turned 8, she wasn't sick anymore. The doctors said it was a miracle. Her lungs had strengthened, her immune system had caught up, and she could live a completely normal life. Except Emma had spent 8 years learning that being sick got her everything she wanted. Attention, sympathy, power, the ability to control every room she entered just by sighing and touching her side. So she never really stopped being sick. The symptoms just became more convenient, more strategic, more perfectly timed to destroy my moments. But I didn't put all of this together immediately. Not at first. It took time. It took watching. It took that thing I do for a living, pattern recognition. And about 4 months after Emma's car accident, I started noticing something odd. Emma's pain flare-ups weren't random. They fell into a cycle. A very specific cycle that repeated every 19 to 23 days. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it was connected to her menstrual cycle, right? That was my first thought too. But I checked. The patterns didn't line up. Emma's bad pain days had nothing to do with her period. They had everything to do with something else. Something I couldn't quite identify yet. But the pattern was there, clear as day once I started tracking it. And patterns don't lie. People do. So I did what any good analyst would do. I started documenting everything. I created a spreadsheet, password protected, stored on an encrypted drive, and I logged every single one of Emma's pain episodes. The date, the time, the location in her body, the pain rating she gave our parents, how long it lasted, what she did afterward, where she went. Within 3 months, I had 97 data points, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every 19 to 23 days, like clockwork, Emma would have a severe pain episode. It was always on her right side, whether that was her head, her abdomen, her hip, always the right side. She always rated the pain between 8 and 9 out of 10. Never 7, never 10. Always 8 or 9. And she always, without exception, called specifically for mom first. Not dad, not me, always mom. The episodes always lasted between 2 and 3 hours. Just long enough to completely derail whatever was happening that day. And here's the thing that made my blood run cold. Emma's worst flare-ups coincided perfectly with my best moments. When I made varsity soccer my junior year of high school, Emma collapsed with mysterious stomach cramps during my first game. My parents left at halftime. When I got accepted into my top choice college, Emma had a pain crisis during my celebration dinner. We spent the night in the ER where doctors ran every test imaginable and found absolutely nothing wrong. When I got engaged to my college boyfriend Jake, Emma developed a migraine so severe at the engagement party that an ambulance had to be called. The worst part, sometimes, when our parents weren't looking, Emma would catch my eye and smile. Just a tiny quirk of her lips. A secret message meant only for me. I win. You lose. Again. I tried telling my parents once. I sat them down, showed them my concerns, suggested maybe Emma was exaggerating her symptoms for attention. My mother looked at me like I'd suggested drowning puppies. My father told me I was being cruel, that jealousy was unbecoming, and that I needed to show more compassion for my sister's chronic condition. Emma, who'd been listening from the hallway, came in crying. She said she knew I resented the attention her illness required, but she never thought I'd actually accuse her of faking. She was so convincing that even I almost believed her. That was 5 years ago. And I decided that day that if I was going to prove what Emma was really doing, I needed ironclad evidence. The kind of evidence that even my parents couldn't dismiss. The kind of evidence that would end her manipulation forever. So I watched her, more closely than anyone had ever watched Emma in her entire life. I studied her the way I study insurance fraud patterns at work. And slowly, methodically, I started to see the truth. But the truth was so much worse than I'd imagined. Because Emma wasn't just faking pain for attention and sympathy. She was running a criminal enterprise. And she was setting me up to take the fall for it. The discovery happened on a Tuesday afternoon in March. Emma had told Mom she had a doctor's appointment at 2 o'clock. Nothing unusual. Emma had doctor's appointments 2 or 3 times a month. But I'd taken the afternoon off work, claiming I had a dentist appointment of my own. Instead, I followed her. I watched Emma pull into the parking lot of Dr. Morrison's medical building right on schedule. She went inside carrying her purse and a folder that presumably held her medical records. I waited in my car 3 spaces down, baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses on even though the day was overcast. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad spy movie. But I also felt certain that I was about to see something that would change everything. Emma came out 17 minutes later. She got in her car, and I expected her to drive home. Instead, she drove to the Starbucks 2 blocks away. She parked. She waited, and then a silver Honda pulled up next to her. A man got out, mid-30s, attractive in that generic way that makes someone instantly forgettable. He walked to Emma's passenger side and got in. They talked for maybe 3 minutes. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Emma's body language. She was animated, smiling, touching his arm. This wasn't a casual acquaintance. This was someone she knew well. Someone she was comfortable with. Then Emma reached into her purse and pulled out the orange prescription bottle I'd seen her pick up from the pharmacy 2 days earlier. The one that was supposed to contain her pain medication. She handed it to the man. He opened it, looked inside, nodded. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Even from 3 cars away, I could see it was thick. Cash. He was giving her cash. For her prescription medication. My hand started shaking on the steering wheel. Because right then, watching my sister hand over prescription opioids for money in a Starbucks parking lot, I understood. This wasn't about attention. This wasn't about sibling rivalry, or childhood trauma, or feeling invisible. Emma was dealing drugs. She was using her fake chronic pain story to get legitimate prescriptions from sympathetic doctors, and then she was selling those pills for profit. The man left. Emma sat in her car for a few more minutes, counting the money. I could see her lips moving as she counted, see her face lit up with satisfaction. Then she pulled out of the parking lot and drove away. I sat there for 20 minutes, unable to move, unable to process what I just witnessed. My baby sister wasn't just a liar. She was a criminal. And I had no idea how deep this went. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that envelope, that exchange, Emma's satisfied smile as she counted her profits. But more than anything, I kept thinking about the pattern. 19 to 23 days. That wasn't random. That was a schedule. A supply schedule. Emma was running a business. The next morning, I got a notification on my phone. An email from my health insurance company. Subject line: unusual activity on your account. My stomach dropped. I opened it with trembling fingers. The email informed me that I'd had 4 prescriptions for controlled substances filled in the past 6 months. The insurance company's fraud detection algorithm had flagged it as unusual activity, and they needed me to verify these prescriptions were legitimate. For prescriptions, in 6 months, for oxycodone, using my insurance information, with my name, my date of birth, my member ID number. I hadn't been to a doctor in over a year. I hadn't taken a prescription pain medication since I got my wisdom teeth removed when I was 19. But according to my insurance records, I had been prescribed 240 pills of oxycodone in the past 6 months. Picked up from pharmacies I'd never visited, prescribed by doctors I'd never seen. Emma had been forging my identity. She'd been using my insurance to get prescriptions because her own insurance had better coverage, higher limits, fewer red flags. And if anyone ever investigated, if anyone ever questioned these prescriptions, it wouldn't be Emma who got in trouble. It would be me. My name was on every bottle. My insurance was paying the claims. In the eyes of the law, I was the one obtaining controlled substances under false pretenses. I was the one who could face federal charges for prescription fraud. Emma wasn't just stealing from our parents and dealing drugs. She was framing me. Deliberately. Methodically. She was building a paper trail that would send me to federal prison if her scheme ever got discovered. And she was doing it all while playing the role of the sick little sister who needed everyone's compassion and protection. That's when I stopped being Emma's sister. That's when I became her investigator. I called my college roommate Sarah that afternoon. We'd been close once, before life and careers pulled us in different directions. I knew she joined the DA after graduation, knew she was doing important work fighting the opioid crisis. I didn't know if she'd help me, but I knew she was the only person I could trust with what I discovered. We met at a coffee shop in a neighborhood neither of us frequented. Neutral territory. I brought my laptop with a spreadsheet, my documentation of Emma's patterns, the photographs I'd managed to take of that parking lot exchange, and the insurance fraud notification. I spread it all out on the table between us, and waited for Sarah to tell me I was crazy, that I was overreacting, that there had to be some other explanation. But Sarah didn't say any of those things. She studied the evidence with the same intense focus I remembered from our college study sessions. She asked pointed questions about timing and locations. She made notes on a small pad she pulled from her purse. And then she pulled out her phone and showed me a photograph. "Is this the man you saw with Emma?" she asked. I looked at the photo. It was the same guy from the parking lot. Same generic features. Same silver Honda, visible in the background of what looked like a surveillance photo. Yes, I said. That's him. Who is he? Derek Matheson, Sarah said quietly. We've been tracking him for 18 months. He's a mid-level distributor operating in upscale neighborhoods. Smart, careful, and very hard to catch. He sources prescription medications from people with legitimate prescriptions and then sells them to a client base of mostly middle-class addicts who started with pills from their own doctors and got hooked. We know he's connected to at least 30 overdoses in the past 2 years, but we haven't been able to build a solid case against him. He never handles the drugs himself, never makes direct sales. He uses intermediaries. The word hung in the air between us. Intermediaries. Like Emma. Your sister isn't a victim here, Sarah continued, her voice gentle but firm. She's his partner, his access point to legitimate prescriptions. Doctors believe her because she has a real medical history, because she's young and sympathetic and knows exactly what to say. She's probably his most valuable asset. I felt sick. How long has this been going on? Based on what you've shown me, at least 3 years. Probably longer. Sarah leaned forward. This is bigger than just Emma selling her own pills. If she's using your insurance to get additional prescriptions, she's running multiple identities. That's organized fraud, federal charges, and if Derek is directing her actions, this becomes conspiracy to distribute. We're talking decades in prison, not years. I could go to prison, I said. My voice came out small, frightened. Those prescriptions are in my name. Not if we can prove you're a victim of identity theft, Sarah said. But we need to document everything. Build an airtight case that shows Emma forged your information without your knowledge or consent. And we need to catch her in the act of distribution, not just possession. That means surveillance. That means time. And that means you're going to have to watch your sister continue this operation for a while longer before we can move. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. How long? 3 months minimum. Maybe 6. We need to identify her customer base, track her transactions with Derek, document the prescription fraud across multiple instances, and coordinate with the local police departments in every jurisdiction where she's obtaining pills. This isn't just about Emma. This is about taking down an entire distribution network. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know this is your sister. I know this is going to hurt, but if you're willing to help us, we can stop her before someone dies from pills she sold them. And we can clear your name in the process. I didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need me to do. Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment and let me know, because what I'm about to tell you gets so much darker than I ever imagined it could. This wasn't just about Emma anymore. This was about every person she'd hurt, every life she destroyed, every family she'd torn apart. And I was about to become the weapon that ended it all. The investigation took 5 months. 5 months of living a double life, of pretending everything was normal while secretly building the case that would destroy my sister. Sarah coordinated everything with her DA team, but I did the groundwork. I was the one who had access to Emma's life, her routines, her patterns. I was the one who could get close without raising suspicion. Week 1, I planted a GPS tracker on Emma's car. It was a tiny device, smaller than a deck of cards, with a magnetic backing that attached underneath her rear bumper. Sarah provided it, along with instructions for checking the tracking software on a secure portal. Every place Emma drove, I knew about it, and the GPS data revealed what I'd suspected. Emma wasn't just seeing 1 or 2 doctors. She was visiting 4 different physicians spread across 3 counties. She'd carefully selected doctors who didn't share the same medical record system, who couldn't easily see that she was obtaining multiple prescriptions for the same medications. After each doctor's visit, Emma drove to the same industrial area near the river, an old warehouse district that was mostly abandoned except for a few holdout businesses and Derek's operation. The GPS showed she spent 30 to 45 minutes there before driving home. Sometimes she made additional stops afterward. A Target, a Starbucks, a nail salon. Normal errands that made her look like a normal person doing normal things. Cover for what she was really doing. Week 3, I installed a hidden camera in Emma's bedroom. I felt like a monster doing it. I waited until she was out getting her nails done, used the spare key I still had from high school to let myself into the apartment she shared with 2 roommates who worked night shifts. The camera was disguised as a phone charger, completely unremarkable, plugged into the outlet by her bedside table. It had a wide-angle lens and motion activation. Sarah had insisted on this step. "We need to see what she does when she thinks no one's watching," she'd said. The footage was damning. Emma practiced her pain faces in the mirror like an actress rehearsing for a role. She tried different expressions, different levels of intensity, testing what looked most convincing. She timed herself. I could see her watching the clock, seeing how long she could maintain the facial expression before it became too theatrical, too obvious. She also rehearsed her movements, how to walk while appearing to be in pain, how to sit down carefully, how to reach for something while protecting her injured side. It was choreographed, calculated, a performance she perfected over years of practice. But the camera captured something even more valuable. It showed Emma with her burner phone, a phone I didn't know she had, a phone she kept hidden in a locked box in her closet, pulling it out only when she was alone in her room with the door closed. I watched her scroll through contacts, send text messages, make calls where she negotiated prices and delivery times like she was running a small business. Which, I realized with growing horror, she was. Sarah got a warrant for Emma's phone records. The burner phone was registered under a fake name, but the cell tower data matched Emma's location patterns perfectly. The contact list was extensive. 22 names. Some were numbers saved without names, but others were labeled. And one name made my stomach drop. Pastor Mike Henderson, the senior pastor at my parents' church, the man who baptized both Emma and me, the man who'd counseled my mother through her depression after her own mother died. Pastor Mike was on my sister's customer list. "We need to talk to him," Sarah said when she showed me the evidence. "He might be willing to testify if we offer him immunity. Addiction makes people do things they never thought they'd do, and he's probably desperate to get out from under this." But that wasn't all. As I scrolled through the list of names Sarah had pulled from the burner phone, I recognized another one. Tyler Chambers, my ex-boyfriend from sophomore year of college. The relationship that ended suddenly when Tyler accused me of cheating on him, convinced by evidence someone had sent him. Evidence I'd never been able to trace back to its source. Now I knew. Emma had destroyed that relationship too. She'd sold Tyler pills, gotten him hooked, and then used his addiction to turn him against me. The pattern of destruction was so much bigger than I'd realized. Emma didn't just steal my moments. She didn't just fake illness for attention. She systematically destroyed my relationships, my reputation, my peace of mind. And she did it all while playing the victim. Week 7, I recruited Emma's best friend Jenna. This was Sarah's idea, and I hated it at first. Using Emma's own friend felt like crossing a line. But Sarah explained it simply. We need someone inside. Someone Emma talks to without her guard up. Someone who can get her to confess on tape. I approached Jenna at a coffee shop, making it seem like a coincidental meeting. We'd known each other for years through Emma, had been friendly if not close. I bought her a latte and asked how she was doing. How Emma was doing. If she was worried about Emma's health at all. Jenna shifted in her seat uncomfortably. Honestly, yeah, I've been worried. But not about her health. That opening was all I needed. I told Jenna I'd been noticing some inconsistencies in Emma's story. I asked if Emma had ever mentioned anything that seemed off. And Jenna, clearly relieved to finally tell someone, started talking. She showed me cash once, Jenna said quietly, looking around to make sure no one was listening. Like, thousands of dollars in cash. Just sitting in a shoebox in her closet. When I asked where it came from, she laughed and said she was making bank from stupid doctors who believe anything. I thought she was joking at first, but she wasn't. She was bragging. I let Jenna talk. Let her unload the guilt and suspicion she'd been carrying. Then I told her the truth. Not everything, but enough. I told her I was working with federal investigators. I told her that Emma was in serious trouble that was going to get worse the longer it continued. And I told her that if Jenna really cared about Emma, if she really wanted to help her get real help before someone died, she could wear a wire during her next conversation with Emma. Jenna cried, said she should have spoken up sooner, said she knew about Pastor Mike, knew his wife had left him, knew his kids wouldn't speak to him anymore because of his addiction, said she felt responsible for not stopping Emma earlier. You can stop her now, I said. You can help us get her real help. But we need evidence. We need her own words. Jenna agreed. 2 days later, she met Emma for their usual Wednesday lunch date. The wire was disguised as a necklace charm, impossible to detect. Sarah and I sat in a van 3 blocks away, listening to the conversation in real time through noise-canceling headphones. Emma incriminated herself within 15 minutes. Jenna asked how business was going, and Emma launched into a detailed explanation of how she'd refined her operation. The trick is making them think you're in real pain, Emma said, her voice clear and confident through the wire. Real, chronic, debilitating pain. Once they believe that, you can get anything. Dr. Morrison still tears up every time I come in. He thinks he's helping me have a quality of life. It's almost sad how gullible he is. Jenna pushed a little harder. But doesn't it bother you? Like, you're not actually in pain. Emma laughed. Of course I'm not in pain. That's the whole point. Pain is the perfect excuse because no one can prove you don't have it. It's subjective, and I've been playing sick since I was a baby. I know exactly how to make people believe me. What about your sister? Jenna asked. Doesn't she suspect anything? Sarah! Emma's voice took on a sharp edge. Sarah thinks she's so smart with her data analysis job and her perfect life. She has no idea I've been using her insurance for half my prescriptions. And even if she found out, it wouldn't matter. My name isn't on those bottles. Hers is. If anyone goes down for prescription fraud, it'll be her, not me. I heard Sarah suck in a sharp breath next to me. That's confession to identity theft and intent to frame, she whispered. We have her. But Emma wasn't done. She kept talking, kept bragging, kept digging her grave deeper with every word. She explained how Derek had taught her to forge prescriptions, how they split the profits 60-40 in her favor, how she built up a loyal customer base who trusted her because she seemed so sweet and innocent. She talked about Pastor Mike like he was a particularly amusing case study. Religious people are the easiest marks, she said. They're so desperate to believe the best in people. Pastor Mike thinks I'm this fragile young woman who's helping him with his back pain. He doesn't know I'm the reason his back pain became an addiction. Jenna's voice came through the wire, sounding sick. Emma, that's really messed up. His family fell apart. His family fell apart because he's weak, Emma replied coldly. I just gave him what he wanted, what he was willing to pay for. That's not my responsibility. The recording went on for 47 minutes. By the end, we had everything we needed. Confession to fraud, conspiracy to distribute, intent to frame me for her crimes, and a complete lack of remorse. Sarah's team transcribed every word, timestamped every admission, and prepared it for the federal prosecutor. We're ready to move, Sarah told me that evening. We have enough to arrest both Emma and Derek, enough to build cases against their entire customer network, and enough to clear your name completely. Now we just need to decide how we do this. That's when I had an idea that Sarah initially pushed back against, calling it risky and potentially compromising to the case. But I wore her down. Because this wasn't just about justice. This was about making sure everyone who'd enabled Emma, everyone who'd believed her lies and dismissed my concerns, saw the truth with their own eyes. This was about vindication. I want to do it at family dinner, I said. I want everyone there. My parents, my aunts and uncles, everyone who spent years telling me I was cruel and jealous and unsympathetic. I want them to watch her get arrested. I want them to see exactly who she is. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. It's technically against protocol, but I can't think of a better way to ensure we have multiple witnesses to her reaction. And if she tries to perform her pain act in front of federal agents, that becomes another charge we can add. Obstruction. We planned it for the following Sunday. My parents hosted monthly family dinners, big gatherings with extended family that Emma usually dominated with her health updates and requests for sympathy. I coordinated with Sarah's team on timing. Derek would be invited under the pretense that Emma wanted him to meet the family. He'd arrive at 7:45. Emma's pattern showed she'd need to make her pickup run by 8 o'clock. The pressure would force her to perform her pain act earlier than usual, and I'd be ready. The final piece of the plan was the prediction video. Sarah suggested it as a way to demonstrate Emma's pattern beyond any doubt. If you can predict her exact behavior before it happens, it proves this is premeditated performance, not genuine medical episodes, she explained. So at 6:40 p.m. on Sunday, while my family gathered downstairs and Emma helped my mother set the table, I locked myself in the upstairs bathroom and recorded a video on my phone. My hands shook for the first take. My voice cracked on the second. But the third time I was calm, cold, ready. It's 6:40 p.m. on Sunday, November 12th, I said to the camera. In 20 minutes, I'm going to announce a fake promotion at work during our family dinner. When I make this announcement, Emma will wait for the applause to finish. Then she'll perform. She'll grab the right side of her body. It's always the right side, whether it's her head, her abdomen, her hip. She'll call specifically for Mom, not Dad. She'll rate her pain as 8 or 9 out of 10. Never 7, never 10, always 8 or 9. She'll ask to lie down immediately, and she'll suggest Mom drive her to Dr. Morrison for an emergency evening appointment. I paused, looking directly into the camera. But here's what my family doesn't know. Dr. Morrison doesn't have evening hours. Emma has an appointment with Derek Matheson at his warehouse at 8 p.m. She needs to pick up her payment for this month's deliveries. The promotion announcement will force her to perform early so she can make the 8 p.m. pickup time. And Derek will be here in 65 minutes, along with the DA agents who've been building a case against him for 18 months. I saved the video and checked the timestamp. 6:43 p.m. Perfect. I took a deep breath, looked at myself in the mirror, and went downstairs. The dining room was full. My parents, my Aunt Linda and Uncle Jim, my cousin Marcus and his wife, my grandparents, Uncle Robert, Aunt Sandra. 14 people total, all gathered around the extended table that barely fit in my parents' dining room. Emma was laughing at something Uncle Robert was saying, looking healthy and radiant in a blue dress that matched her eyes. She caught my gaze and smiled. Warm, genuine, sisterly. I smiled back. Sarah! Mom called out when she saw me. Come help me bring out the roast. I helped her carry dishes from the kitchen, made small talk with my cousins, poured wine and water into glasses. Normal Sunday dinner activities. But my heart was racing. My watch showed 7:25. 20 minutes until I made my announcement. 20 minutes until Emma's entire world came crashing down. At exactly 7:30, I stood up and clinked my wine glass with a spoon. The sound cut through the conversations, drawing everyone's attention. Can I have everyone's attention for a moment? I asked, injecting excitement into my voice. I have some news I want to share. The room fell quiet. Expectant faces turned toward me. Emma was at the far end of the table, between Marcus and Aunt Sandra, idly pushing mashed potatoes around on her plate. She looked up at me with polite interest. I got promoted this week, I announced, letting my voice rise with manufactured enthusiasm. Senior Director of Fraud Analytics. It comes with a 40% raise and my own team of analysts. I'm officially the youngest person to reach director level in my company's history. The room erupted. My mother burst into tears, rushing around the table to hug me. My father pulled me into a crushing embrace, telling me how proud he was. Uncle Robert made a joke about me becoming the rich niece who'd pay for everyone's vacations. Grandma started talking about how I could help her with medication costs now that I was making real money. Cousins hugged me, congratulated me, asked questions about my new role. And through it all I watched Emma. I counted in my head. 3, 2, 1. She stopped eating first. Let her fork clatter against her plate with a sound that cut through the celebration. Aunt Sandra noticed immediately, asking if she was okay. Emma shook her head, forced a brave smile. The smile she always used when she wanted people to think she was being strong despite terrible pain. Then her hand moved to her right side, her right abdomen, just below her ribs. The first sound was almost inaudible, a soft whimper that she tried to suppress. But Emma knew exactly how to project her voice, so it seemed like she was hiding something while making sure people heard anyway. Marcus stopped mid-sentence. Emma, you okay? It's nothing, she murmured, but loud enough for half the table to hear. Just a little pain. And there it was. The performance I'd seen dozens of times. The show that had ruined my college graduation, my engagement party, my first job offer, every important moment of my life for the past 5 years. But this time, I wasn't the audience. I was the director. Aunt Sandra turned completely toward Emma, forgetting her conversation with my grandfather. What kind of pain, sweetie? Where does it hurt? Emma curved forward, slightly in her chair. Not too dramatic, that would look fake. Just enough to show genuine distress. It's here, she said, pressing her hand harder against her right side. It just came on suddenly. Out of nowhere. I watched the attention shift. Conversations that had been focused on my promotion started dying down, replaced by concern for Emma. My mother stopped mid-hug and looked over at Emma with that expression I knew so well. The maternal panic that Emma could invoke with surgical precision. Emma! Mom's voice was sharp with worry. What's wrong, baby? Mom, Emma whispered, her voice trembling exactly the right amount. It's hurting really bad. My father went into problem-solving mode. What kind of pain? Sharp, dull, cramping. It's a dull ache, Emma said, closing her eyes like she was concentrating on describing it accurately. But really intense. And it's getting worse. My grandmother crossed herself. Uncle Robert frowned with concern. Cousin Marcus was already asking if anyone had Tylenol in their purse. The attention of the entire room had completely shifted from me to Emma in less than 3 minutes. Like water going down a drain. Inevitable. Predictable. Exactly as I knew it would be. On a scale of 1 to 10, my father asked, already reaching for his car keys from the sideboard. How bad is the pain? Emma paused. Another brilliant touch. If she answered too quickly, it might seem rehearsed. It's an 8, she said finally, her voice weak. Maybe a 9. Of course it was. Never 7. Never 10. Always 8 or 9. Alarming enough to warrant immediate action, but not so dramatic that it raised suspicions. My mother was already standing. We should take you to the hospital. Maybe I just need to lie down first, Emma suggested, which was also part of her pattern. Always suggest lying down first, then escalate to the hospital if the situation warranted it. And then Emma did that thing she always did. She looked directly at me, just for a second, when she was certain no one else was watching. And she smiled. That tiny, triumphant smile that said I win again. Your moment is mine now. That's when I felt something cold and calm settle over me. I'd been waiting 5 years for this. And now, finally, it was time. Wait, I said, my voice cutting through the concerned murmurs. Before anyone goes anywhere, there's something you all need to see. Emma's eyes snapped to mine. For the first time, I saw something flicker across her face. Suspicion. Maybe even fear. But she was too committed to the performance now. She couldn't drop the act in front of the whole family. Sarah, this isn't the time, she started, her voice still weak and pained. I think it's exactly the time, I interrupted. I pulled out my phone and held it up. I recorded a video 20 minutes ago. You're all going to want to watch this. My mother looked confused. Sarah, what are you talking about? Emma needs help. Please, I said firmly. Just watch. I pressed play. My recorded voice filled the dining room. It's 6:40 p.m. on Sunday, November 12th. In 20 minutes, I'm going to announce a fake promotion at work during our family dinner. The room went silent. Everyone's eyes moved from me to the phone screen to Emma, who had gone completely still. My recorded voice continued mercilessly. When I make this announcement, Emma will wait for the applause to finish. Then she'll perform. She'll grab the right side of her body. It's always the right side. She'll call specifically for Mom, not Dad. She'll rate her pain as 8 or 9 out of 10. Never 7, never 10. She'll ask to lie down immediately, and she'll suggest going to Dr. Morrison for an emergency evening appointment. My grandmother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's face had gone pale. Emma was frozen, her hand still pressed to her right side, unable to abandon the performance, but unable to defend herself. But here's what my family doesn't know, the recording continued. Dr. Morrison doesn't have evening hours. Emma has an appointment with Derek Matheson at his warehouse at 8 p.m. tonight. She needs to pick up her payment for this month's deliveries. Sarah, what is this? My mother whispered. I paused the video and looked directly at Emma. Want to tell them, or should I? I don't know what you're talking about, Emma said, but her voice had lost that theatrical weakness. Now it just sounded scared. I'm in pain. Real pain. Why are you doing this? Because I've spent 5 months documenting everything, I replied calmly. Every pattern, every transaction, every lie. You're not in pain, Emma. You're performing. Just like you always do. And this time I can prove it. I pulled up the next folder on my phone. Security footage I'd obtained from Derek's warehouse through Sarah's investigation. This is from 6 weeks ago, I said, letting the video play. The footage showed Emma's car pulling up to the warehouse. Showed Emma getting out, walking normally, no pain, no careful movements, no signs of distress. Showed Derek coming out to meet her. Showed them kissing. Not a peck. A deep, familiar kiss that made it clear they were intimately involved. Showed Emma handing him prescription bottles. Showed him counting out cash and handing her an envelope. The silence in the dining room was suffocating. "Oh my God!" And Sandra breathed. "Emma," my father said, his voice low and dangerous. "What is this?" "It's fake," Emma tried desperately. "She edited it. She's framing me because she's jealous." "There's 17 hours of surveillance footage," I interrupted, "from multiple locations, multiple transactions, and that's just the beginning." I pulled up the next file, the audio recording of Emma's conversation with Jenna at lunch. "This is from last week," I said, and press play. Emma's voice came through clearly. "The trick is making them think you're in real pain. Real, chronic, debilitating pain. Once they believe that, you can get anything." My mother made a sound I'd never heard before. Not quite a sob, not quite a scream, just a breaking sound, like something inside her had shattered. The recording continued, Emma talking about how she'd been playing sick since she was a baby. Emma bragging about Dr. Morrison tearing up during her appointments. Emma laughing about how gullible everyone was. And then came the part that made my blood boil every time I heard it. Emma's voice, cold and calculating. "I've been using Sarah's insurance for half my prescriptions. If anyone goes down for prescription fraud, it'll be her, not me." My father's hands clenched into fists. "You framed your sister? It's out of context." Emma shrieked, all pretense of pain completely abandoned now. "She's twisting everything. She's trying to destroy me." "I haven't twisted anything," I said coldly. "I documented everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every crime." That's when the doorbell rang. 7:45 p.m. Right on schedule. Emma's face went white. Actually white. "Don't answer that," she whispered. "Please, please don't answer that." "Who's at the door, Emma?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Sarah, don't." My father was already moving toward the door. He opened it. Derek stood on the front porch, looking confused about why there were so many cars in the driveway. And behind him, stepping out of 2 unmarked vehicles, were 4 DA agents in windbreakers with federal agent emblazoned across the backs. Agent Sarah Rodriguez stepped forward, holding up her badge. "Derek Matheson, you're under arrest for distribution of controlled substances, conspiracy to commit prescription fraud, and running a continuing criminal enterprise." Derek tried to bolt. He actually spun around and tried to run back to his car. But 2 agents were already on him, taking him down hard on my parents' front lawn. His face hit the grass with a thud that was probably more satisfying than it should have been. Emma screamed and ran for the back door. Uncle Jim moved faster than I'd ever seen him move, blocking her path. "Stay right there, Emma." 2 more agents entered through the front door. "Emma," Sarah said, her voice professional and detached. "You're under arrest for prescription fraud, identity theft, distribution of controlled substances, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud." "No!" Emma shrieked. "I'm sick. I have chronic pain. I need those medications. You can't arrest me for being sick." One of the agents moved toward her with handcuffs. Emma fought. She actually fought them, kicking and screaming and clawing. It took 2 agents to restrain her and get the cuffs on while she screamed that we were all destroying her, that we were all cruel and heartless and didn't understand. My mother tried to intervene. "She needs help. She's sick. You can't." Sarah held up a hand. "Ma'am, your daughter isn't sick. She's been running a prescription drug operation for at least 3 years. She's been obtaining controlled substances using false identities, including her sister's insurance information, and selling those medications through an established distribution network. She's not a victim. She's a criminal." "That's not true," my mother sobbed. "She has chronic pain. She's been in pain since her car accident 3 years ago." I interrupted. "The car accident that barely left a scratch? The car accident that just happened to introduce her to an opioid prescription she could exploit?" I pulled out my phone again. Do you want to see the video of her practicing her pain faces in the mirror? Or the footage of her walking normally, laughing, living her life with zero signs of distress when she thinks no one's watching? Or maybe you'd like to hear her explain to her boyfriend how she's been framing me for her crimes. My mother stared at me like she didn't know who I was. You're enjoying this. I'm surviving this, I corrected. Emma has been destroying my life for 5 years. Longer, actually. And she set me up to take the fall for federal crimes that could have sent me to prison for 20 years. So no, Mom. I'm not enjoying this. But I'm not going to apologize for protecting myself either. Derek was being led out in handcuffs, blood streaming from his nose where it had hit the ground. He was screaming that this was all Emma's fault, that she got him into this, that she threatened to expose him if he didn't help her expand the operation. We were partners. Emma screamed back at him. You said you loved me. You said we'd make enough money to disappear together. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent, one of the agents said dryly. I'd suggest using it. But Emma couldn't stop. The performance was over. The mask was off, and what was underneath was ugly and desperate and completely unhinged. She screamed that I'd ruined her life, that I'd always been jealous of the attention she got, that I'd never forgiven her for being sick as a child. You were never sick. I finally exploded. Not for the last 15 years. You learned that being sick got you what you wanted, so you just never stopped. You turned it into an empire built on lies and manipulation and destroying anyone who got in your way. Sarah stepped between us. That's enough. We need to take her in now. They led Emma toward the door. She was still screaming, still fighting against the handcuffs, still insisting she was the victim. My entire family stood frozen, watching this unfold like it was happening to someone else's family. Like this couldn't possibly be real. Wait, I said. There's one more thing everyone needs to know. Sarah nodded. She pulled out a folder from her jacket and opened it. We've identified 22 individuals who purchased prescription medications from Emma over the past 3 years. Some of them are in this room. The color drained from my grandmother's face. Uncle Robert looked like he might be sick. Pastor Mike Henderson, Sarah read from the list. Would you like to come in now? The kitchen door opened. Pastor Mike walked into the dining room. He looked like he'd aged 20 years since I'd last seen him 3 months ago. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, his priest's collar hanging loose around his thin neck. He looked at Emma with an expression I couldn't quite read. Anger? Betrayal? Grief? Maybe all three. Tell them, I said quietly. Tell them what she did to you. Pastor Mike's voice came out rough, like he hadn't used it in days. Emma approached me 2 years ago, right after my back surgery. She said she had leftover pain medication from her own treatment, medication she didn't need anymore. She offered to help me manage my recovery, said the doctors never prescribed enough, said I shouldn't have to suffer. He paused, his hand shaking. I was in pain, real pain, and I was grateful someone understood. But the pills she gave me, they were stronger than what my doctor prescribed. And when they ran out, when I tried to stop, the withdrawal was worse than the original pain. So I went back to her, and she had more, always more, for a price. I never forced you, Emma spit out. You came to me. You asked. After you made sure I was addicted. Pastor Mike's voice cracked. After you gave me enough free pills to get my body dependent on them. You knew exactly what you were doing. You targeted me because I was vulnerable, because I trusted you, because you knew I'd pay anything to avoid withdrawal. He turned to face my parents. She destroyed my marriage. My wife left me when she found out about the pills. My children won't speak to me. I almost lost my position at the church. I've been in recovery for 4 months now, and every single day is a battle. And it all started with your daughter offering to help. My mother was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Pastor Mike, I didn't know. We didn't know. Nobody knew, I said. That was the point. Emma made sure nobody knew. She was careful, methodical, strategic. She built this operation one vulnerable person at a time. And every time someone got suspicious, every time someone questioned her, she played the sick card. Poor chronically ill Emma, who just needs compassion and understanding. Grandma spoke up, her voice small. There's something I need to confess. All eyes turned to her. Emma has been giving me pills too, Grandma said, her voice shaking. For my arthritis. She said her doctors prescribed more than she needed, that it was a shame to waste them. I've been taking them for 8 months. I didn't know they were illegal. Jesus Christ, my father breathed. Sarah made a note in her folder. Mrs. Chun, you're going to need to come to the federal building tomorrow and give a statement. You're not in trouble. You're a victim here, just like Sarah. But we need your testimony for the case. How many? My mother asked, her voice hollow. How many people did she do this to? 22 confirmed customers, Sarah said. 3 of them are teenagers. 5 of them are now in inpatient addiction treatment facilities. 2 overdosed. Both survived, thankfully, but barely. And those are just the ones we know about. Emma kept meticulous records on her burner phone. Every sale, every customer, every transaction. She thought she was being smart, keeping documentation to protect herself if Derek ever tried to cut her out. Instead, she created a perfect paper trail for us to follow. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. What's she facing? Legally, federal distribution charges carry a mandatory minimum of 5 years, Sarah explained. The identity theft and insurance fraud add another 3 to 5 years. Prescription forgery across 3 counties. Conspiracy charges. And if we can prove she knowingly sold to individuals she knew were addicted, which the recordings suggest we can, that adds enhanced penalties. She's looking at 7 to 10 years minimum. Derek is facing 12 to 15. 10 years. Emma would be 33 when she got out. If she got out after the minimum sentence. I need you to understand something, I said, looking around at my family. Emma didn't just sell drugs. She created addicts. She targeted vulnerable people, people recovering from surgery, people in chronic pain, people who trusted her, and she deliberately got them hooked. She turned their pain into profit, and when anyone questioned her, she played the victim. I pulled up one more file on my phone. This is a recording of Emma coaching Derek on how to identify good targets. Want to hear it? Emma lunged toward me, handcuffs and all. You bitch. You've destroyed everything. Everything. The agents pulled her back. That's assaulting a federal witness, one of them said mildly. Add that to the list. I hope you're happy. Emma screamed at me as they dragged her toward the door. I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed your own sister. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no sisterly love or familial obligation. Just a cold, clear certainty that I'd done exactly what needed to be done. I'm not the one who destroyed you, Emma, I said quietly. You did that all by yourself. Every choice you made, every person you hurt, every lie you told. You chose this. And now you get to live with the consequences. They took her away. The agents walked her out to a waiting vehicle while she screamed and cried and cursed my name. Derek was already gone, probably already being processed at the federal building downtown. The house fell into stunned silence. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My father stood motionless, staring at nothing. Aunt Sandra had her arms around my grandmother, both of them crying quietly. Uncle Jim looked like he wanted to hit something. Cousin Marcus just kept shaking his head, muttering, I can't believe it, over and over. I think we should all go, Aunt Linda said finally. This family needs some time to process. People started gathering their things. Coats, purses, half-eaten plates of food. Nobody made eye contact with anyone else. Nobody knew what to say. What do you say when you discover that someone you loved, someone you trusted, was a monster all along? Pastor Mike stopped in front of me before he left. Thank you, he said simply, for stopping her before she could hurt anyone else. I nodded. I'm sorry I didn't figure it out sooner. You figured it out in time, he replied. That's what matters. After everyone left, it was just me and my parents in that too large dining room, surrounded by abandoned plates and unfinished conversations. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father kept opening his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closing it again. Finally, my mother spoke. How long have you known? 5 months, I said. Since the day I got the insurance fraud notification. And you didn't tell us. I tried telling you 5 years ago that something was wrong with Emma. You called me jealous and cruel. You told me I needed to be more understanding of her condition. I kept my voice level. So this time, I made sure I had evidence you couldn't dismiss. We could have helped her, my mother whispered. If you'd come to us, We could have gotten her into treatment. Emma doesn't need treatment, I interrupted. She's not an addict. She's a dealer. She's not confused or sick or making poor choices out of desperation. She's a calculating criminal who built a drug operation and was willing to let me go to prison to protect herself. I pulled out the insurance documents. She forged my identity. My name is on prescription bottles for 240 pills of oxycodone that I never requested, never received, never took. If the DEA hadn't cleared me as an identity theft victim, I'd be facing federal charges right now. Emma was setting me up to take the fall. She told Jenna that directly. It's on tape. My father finally found his voice. You could have talked to us before involving law enforcement. No, I said firmly. I couldn't, because you would have protected her. You would have tried to handle it quietly, get her into some kind of program, make it go away. And meanwhile, she'd still be selling drugs to teenagers. Pastor Mike would still be buying from her. My grandmother would still be taking illegal medications. How many more people would she have hurt while you tried to help her? She's your sister, my mother said. And she's been systematically destroying my life since I was 16 years old, I replied. She sabotaged my relationships. She ruined my important moments. She framed me for federal crimes. At what point does blood relations stop mattering more than basic human decency? My mother had no answer for that. I gathered my things. Sarah gave me the name of a good therapist who specializes in families of criminals. I think you should call her. Because Emma isn't coming back from this. She's going to prison for a long time. And you're going to need help processing that. Where are you going? My father asked. Home, I said. To my apartment. To my life. The life I've built despite Emma's best efforts to destroy it. Sarah, my mother started. I need you to understand something, I said, turning back to face them. I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. I protected myself. I protected Pastor Mike. I protected every future person Emma would have hurt. I did what was necessary. And if you can't understand that, if you're going to blame me for turning in my own sister, then we don't have anything else to talk about. I walked out, got in my car, drove home in silence, and for the first time in years, I felt light, unburdened, free. What would you do in my position? Would you have given your sister a chance to come clean? Would you have confronted her privately? Or would you have done exactly what I did, documented everything, built an airtight case, and watched her face the full consequences of her actions? Drop a comment and let me know, because I'm genuinely curious. Because here's the thing, I don't feel guilty. And maybe that makes me cold. But I can finally sleep at night, knowing she can't hurt anyone else. The next 6 months were a blur of legal proceedings and family fallout. Emma was denied bail, flight risk, the judge said, given Derek's testimony that they'd been planning to flee to Mexico with their profits. She sat in county jail awaiting trial, writing letters that I never opened. Derek took a plea deal. 12 years in federal prison in exchange for testifying against Emma and providing information about his distribution network. His testimony was damning. He described in detail how Emma had approached him 3 years ago with a business proposition. How she'd done research on the opioid epidemic, identified a profitable niche, and presented him with a detailed plan for using her legitimate prescriptions as seed inventory. She wasn't a victim he'd manipulated. She was the architect of the entire operation. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I testified for 7 hours across 2 days. Sarah's team presented 17 hours of surveillance footage, 47 audio recordings, thousands of text messages from the burner phone, bank records showing over $47,000 in deposits, and testimony from 8 of Emma's customers. Pastor Mike testified, broke down on the stand describing how Emma had deliberately created his addiction, then exploited it for profit. My grandmother testified about the pills Emma had given her. A 19-year-old college student testified about buying Adderall from Emma, not knowing it was actually prescription amphetamines that Emma had obtained by claiming she had ADHD to a sympathetic doctor. Emma's defense attorney tried to argue she was suffering from factitious disorder, that she convinced herself she was actually sick, that the drug dealing was a byproduct of untreated mental illness. The prosecutor destroyed that argument by playing the recording of Emma explaining to Jenna exactly how she manipulated people. Once they believe that you can get anything, Emma's recorded voice echoed through the courtroom. That's the whole point. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge was merciless. "This is one of the most callous cases I've seen in 30 years on the bench," he said. "You didn't just distribute drugs. You created addicts. You targeted vulnerable people who trusted you, and you systematically destroyed their lives for profit. And you showed no remorse whatsoever until you were caught." He sentenced her to 10 years in federal prison. With good behavior, she'd be eligible for release after serving 85% of the sentence. 8.5 years. She'd be 33 years old. My parents attended every day of the trial. They sat behind Emma, providing silent support that she didn't deserve. After the sentencing, my mother tried to approach me in the courthouse hallway. "Sarah, please," she said. "We need to talk." "About what?" I asked. "About forgiveness. About family. About giving your sister a chance at redemption when she gets out." I looked at my mother. Really looked at her. I saw the grief there, the desperate need to believe this was all somehow fixable. That enough love and support could undo the damage Emma had done. "Emma will be released when she's 33, I said calmly. "She'll have a felony record. She'll never work in healthcare or with vulnerable populations. She'll probably struggle to find any legitimate employment. And she'll have spent almost a decade in federal prison thinking about all the choices that led her there." My mother nodded, hopeful. "So you'll be there for her when she gets out? You'll help her rebuild?" "No," I said simply. "I won't. Because Emma didn't make a mistake, Mom. She didn't slip up or have a moment of poor judgment. She built a criminal enterprise over 3 years. She deliberately targeted vulnerable people. She framed me for federal crimes. And according to the psychiatric evaluation the court ordered, she shows textbook signs of antisocial personality disorder. She's not going to change. She's not going to have some prison epiphany and emerge as a better person. She's going to spend 10 years being angry that she got caught." "You can't know that," my mother protested. "Actually, I can," I replied, "because I've spent my entire life watching Emma manipulate people. And she's still doing it. Those letters she writes you from jail? The ones where she says she's sorry, and she's learning from her mistakes, and she just needs another chance. She's performing, just like she's always performed. And you're falling for it because you want to believe the best in her. She's your sister. She stopped being my sister the day she decided to frame me for her crimes," I said. "Blood relation doesn't give someone the right to destroy your life. And I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep Emma warm." My mother stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd become someone she didn't recognize. But I'd also become someone who could sleep at night without wondering when the next betrayal was coming. I walked away, out of the courthouse, into the bright afternoon sunlight, and I didn't look back. 3 months after the sentencing, I got a job offer. The insurance fraud investigation company that had worked on Emma's case wanted to hire me as a senior consultant. They'd been impressed with my documentation, my pattern recognition, my methodical approach to building an airtight case. The salary was 30% higher than my current job. The work would be challenging, meaningful, focused on protecting vulnerable people from exactly the kind of schemes Emma had run. I accepted immediately. I also started writing. A memoir about the experience, about recognizing manipulation in people you love, about the difference between enabling and supporting, about when it's necessary to choose your own survival over family loyalty. A literary agent reached out after reading an excerpt I'd posted online. "We're shopping the book to publishers now." The working title is Pattern Recognition: How My Sister's Chronic Pain Led to Federal Prison. Dr. Morrison, the physician who Emma had manipulated for years, reached out to me as well. He'd been devastated by Emma's trial, felt enormous guilt for being so easily deceived. But he turned that guilt into action. He completely overhauled his prescription protocols, implemented new safeguards, and now teaches medical students about recognizing drug-seeking behavior and manipulation tactics. He asked if I'd be willing to speak to his classes about the warning signs I'd noticed, the patterns that revealed Emma's deception. I agreed. I've spoken to 3 medical school classes so far. The students are attentive, asking detailed questions about how Emma built trust, how she mimicked genuine pain behaviors, how she exploited their teachers' compassion. If even one of those students becomes a doctor who catches a similar scheme, it's worth the discomfort of sharing my story. Pastor Mike is 2 years sober now. He reconciled with his daughter, though his ex-wife still won't speak to him. He leads a support group at the church for people recovering from prescription drug addiction. He invited me to speak there too, and I did. Told them about Emma's operation, about how she targeted vulnerable people, about how addiction isn't a moral failing but recovery is a daily choice. My grandmother goes to meetings now too. The pills Emma gave her had been creating a dependency she didn't even realize she had. She's off them now, managing her arthritis with physical therapy and over-the-counter medication. She apologized to me, said she should have questioned where Emma was getting extra pills, should have known something wasn't right. I told her the same thing I told everyone else who apologized. Emma was good at what she did. Professional level good. She studied people, learned their vulnerabilities, and exploited them with surgical precision. Falling for her manipulation didn't make anyone stupid or weak. It made them human. My parents and I don't talk much anymore. They send occasional emails, usually updating me on Emma's prison adjustment or asking if I've reconsidered visiting her. I respond politely but briefly. No, I haven't reconsidered. No, I don't plan to. Yes, I'm doing well. Yes, I hope they're taking care of themselves. The truth is, I don't miss them. The family I grew up in was built on a foundation of enabling Emma's behavior, dismissing my concerns, prioritizing her comfort over my well-being. I don't want to rebuild that dynamic. I don't want to spend the rest of my life being the bad guy for refusing to sacrifice myself on the altar of family loyalty. I've built a new life. A good life. I have friends who believe me when I say something is wrong. I have colleagues who respect my analytical skills and attention to detail. I have a therapist who helped me understand that choosing my own survival wasn't cruelty, it was self-preservation. I have a dating life again, though I'm careful about introducing people to my family history. Not everyone understands how you can turn in your own sister. Not everyone gets that sometimes love isn't enough. Last week, 6 months after the sentencing, I drove to the Federal Women's Correctional Facility where Emma is serving her time. I didn't go inside. I just sat in the parking lot, watching families come and go on visiting day. Watching the visitors get buzzed through security, watching the inmates in orange jumpsuits visible through the windows. I saw Emma. She was sitting at a table in the visiting room, waiting. She looked thinner, harder. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, no makeup, none of the careful styling she used to spend hours on. She kept looking at the door every time it opened, kept hoping someone was coming for her. I sat there for the entire visiting hour, watched her face fall every time the door opened, and it wasn't anyone she knew. Watched her slump in her chair as the hour ticked away and no one came. Finally, an officer touched her shoulder. Time's up. Emma stood slowly, looked one more time at the door, and walked back to her cell block. People have asked me why I went if I wasn't going to go inside. Why I drove an hour to the prison just to sit in the parking lot and watch. I needed to see it. Needed to see with my own eyes that she was really there, really paying the price for what she'd done. Needed to prove to myself that I'd actually followed through, that I hadn't let guilt or family pressure or societal expectations convince me to back down. Driving away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Light, unburdened, free. Some people think I'm cruel, that I should forgive Emma, visit her in prison, help her prepare for life after release. They say holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. They say family is everything, blood is thicker than water, everyone deserves a second chance. But here's what I've learned. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone continued access to hurt you. It doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. It doesn't mean sacrificing your safety, your sanity, your survival because you shared DNA. Emma taught me the most important pattern of all. Some people will destroy you to feel better about themselves. They'll manipulate, lie, steal, and betray, all while playing the victim. And the kindest thing you can do for both of you is let them face the consequences alone. I'm not her savior. I'm not her second chance. I'm not her redemption arc. I'm the person she tried to destroy who refused to be destroyed. I'm the pattern she couldn't break. I'm the evidence she couldn't explain away. And I'm finally free. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to make the impossible choice between family loyalty and self-preservation, drop a comment below. Tell me your story, because I've learned that I'm not alone in this. There are so many of us out there, People who've had to choose survival over sentiment, truth over tradition, freedom over forgiveness. And we're not the villains they tried to make us believe we were. We're survivors. We're pattern breakers. We're the ones who chose ourselves when no one else would. And that's not something to apologize for. That's something to be proud of.